Elets for inviting us to present the microfinance view before this August audience. Issue is bridging the gap between microfinance and NBFC. I believe the topic should be creating the gap between the microfinance and the NBFC. Why I said so? Because earlier microfinance was being done by the NBFCs. All the NBFCs were doing housing loan, loan against property, gold loan, or like this thing. They were also doing these microfinance loans. But in 2010, an infamous Andhra crisis took place. This Andhra crisis was highly infamous because it disturbed the entire ecosystem. And the reason of this, why I said infamous, because at that time, microfinance, NBFCs were charging interest at the rate of 45, 40, 50 or 60%. Over-indebtedness was also there. Lot of societies and other mishappenings had taken place. Issue went up to the parliament. Parliament discussed the issue very sincerely, very minutely. And then it was held that why this microfinance should be, why the NBFC should be permitted to extend loan to the poor, most vulnerable section of the society. But then government found, no, it is because banks and other financial institutions have a lot of barriers in reaching to the last mile connectivity. Therefore, NBFC should be there. Then RBI came into action and it formed a committee in the name of Malegaon Committee. Malegaon Committee was formed in 2010 under the presidency of Shri Y.H. Malegaon, a well-known chartered accountant. This Malegaon Committee first created a complete blueprint of the microfinance in India. First thing what the Malegaon Committee said, that NBFCs loan to the poor and the vulnerable section should be segregated properly. It needs it's a proper monitoring. And in order to have a proper monitoring and a proper system, these NBFCs, a new category of NBFC MFI was created. All the NBFCs which were in the field of lending to microfinance, they should get themselves registered with RBI as NBFC MFI. This was the first most robust recommendation made by the Malegaon Committee. And thereafter, this NBFC MFI, a new category was created in RBI, where any entity which wants to lend for microfinance needs to register with RBI under this particular category. Which is why I said in the opening that NBFC and NBFC MFI needs to be segregated, needs to create a gap rather than bridging the gap. Am I right? So this was the first recommendation made by the Malegaon Committee. Malegaon Committee, this report was so inclusive that it addressed all the issues of microfinance in one single go. One single report put all the framework into place. First, regarding supervision, it said that RBI there should be a separate category of NBFC MFI. Then second, in regard to this over-indebtedness, they said that all the NBFCs must be partner of two credit bureau. There were two credit bureaus, Cliff Highmark and Equifax. Then it said that they should be member of any of the two credit bureau, so as the data could be exchanged. And with this exchange of data, they can find out the amount of quantum of loan finance to one particular borrower. So this was another attempt to arrest the instances of over-indebtedness. However, there are certain issues taking place that will come a little later. The third thing was regarding pricing, because there was issue that the microfinance are charging very high rate of interest, 45%, 50% and like so. So RBI said, put a cap on this financing. They said 10% over the cost of fund could be the lending margin. Means if your cost of fund is something around 14 to 15%, you cannot go beyond 25%. And by that way, they put up a cap of 25% or 26% in microfinance, that person cannot, any organization cannot finance more than 25, 26%. So that was the third option. Then the next thing they did for compliance redressal. They said that all the MFIs must have a compliance redressal system at their office. And this gives back to this compliance. Every organization is now having a compliance redressal system. They need to report the complaints received and resolved to RBI on a quarterly basis. Then third thing, next thing what they did was, they put up a cap, because this microfinance loan, you know, is an unsecured loan. It is being given to the people having a lower rate of interest, where there is no collateral or any type of security or guarantee is required. So it is a completely clean loan. No security, no guarantee, except group guarantee. Yes, group guarantee concept is there. So for that, RBI allowed the organizations to have their 75% assets under qualified asset. 25% asset they may go for the secured asset, but 75% asset primarily need to be under this microfinance sector, if you are going to microfinance. So this 25%, however this reduced limit has been reduced to 60%. So by that way, this microfinance is a tool to provide financial inclusion to the lowest sector of the society, which are not accessible to the bank. And now another thing was, when the parliament took up this issue of why there should be NBFC, then that one thing that came up, that if we do not permit this NBFCs to lend to the private people, where the people will go? They will be going to the private borrow lenders, money lenders, and pushing the people from NBFCs to going to the money lender means pulling a person from the pond, putting it into the well. So this NBFC MFI concept was very much required, and this concept has now been well recognized. It is augusting the state government's initiative of financial inclusion, and sorry, and it is a well recognized system, because you see, banks cannot, people cannot approach, cannot go to all people cannot go to the bank. If somebody goes to the bank, he has to put his 1 day's wages on loss of pay. He has to lose his wage for particular day. He will take full day, and then he will have to visit twice or thrice or 4 times, provide lot of papers. Whereas in microfinance, the person goes to the village, identifies the people, and lends there at its own home place, workplace or home. So microfinance was a concept which is created just to help the people, those who cannot approach the bank. Which is why I said that, and in regard to the NBFC, if you see that NBFC's concept is a bigger concept. They are going for loan against property, they are going for the home loan, they are going for the gold loan, and like many other loans. But NBFC MFIs are confined only to the microfinance loan. They can lend funds only for the microfinance. And now RBI has again set up a new guideline that those having the income criteria was not earlier in Malegaon committee. They only said that the poor people. But in this recent second edition of the committee when came, it said that those people whose annual income is not more than 3 lakh rupees per annum per family, they are only entitled for the microfinance loan. And then it said that you cannot lend any person an amount of which the installment is not more than 50% of his total monthly annual income. Supposingly, if a person has got 3 lakh rupees of annual income, then annual outgo cannot go beyond 1.5 lakh. These are the two very significant changes made by RBI, and now the qualifying asset has also been made from 75% to 65%, because in the recent past what happened is, most of अभी कुछ ही महीनों में करीब पिछले 6 से 8 महीने के बीच में माइक्रोफाइनेंस कंपनियों को बहुत से लोन वाइट ऑफ करने पड़े, because it was a clean loan and there were certain cases of indebtedness. So over indebtedness. So most of the people have to write off huge amount of loan. And by writing off the loan, their books become, most of the people, organizations who were in green for last 10 years have come in red. So at this time, RBI has permitted them to reduce the qualifying asset from 75% to 60%. This means an organization can extend up to 40% of its portfolio in as a secured loan. By making the loan as a secured loan means you will have a better coverage, better security. You can go for the housing loan, loan against property or gold loan. You will have security, so your assets will be more protected rather than giving it to the unsecured loan. So these are the changes. These are the changes which have been made for the microfinance sector. As such, microfinance sector is recently in the recent past, it is passing through a very crucial phase. However, we are expecting that by next quarter it will improve. It will completely jump. It will show better results. In regard to the NBFC, when we compare with the NBFC does not have these separate company issues. They can have security, they can have their rate of interest, they can have anything. But in MFI, while doing MFI, you have to pass under strict regulation. So which is why I just said that instead of bridging the gap, we need to create a gap between NBFC and MFI. And MFI is the backbone of the country. अभी 3-4 दिन पीछे ही फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर की माइक्रो फाइनेंस के सीईओ से मीटिंग भी हुई थी. उसमें भी फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने यही कहा था कि NBFCs, MFIs are the backbone or are part of the economic system in India, and they must continue. Even at this rate of interest and other things, it must continue. So we need, this sector is really doing a lot of wonders in this industry. Today, our exposure in the industry is around 4 trillion. If the NBFC's loan is around 48 trillion, NBFC MFI contribute to around 10%, around 4 trillion is our exposure, and more than 37 million families are with us. Means 3 crore families are working with MFI. So this way, microfinance is contributing extremely for the growth of the industry, for the growth of the poor, and for these industries. Thank you very much.